when the Giannis rumors hit in whatever it was, October, or even before that, I kind of did the same mental exercise. Okay, is there teams out there who would give you something for an OG, for a cat, and this and that and the other thing? It, I mean, I'd love to hear from you if you feel differently, but it does not seem like they are ready to jump through all those hoops to just land a Giannis and have a much shallower roster and obviously an injury, a superstar coming to their roster who is not currently healthy. On top of that.
Yeah, I think that just general, my read on it would be I don't think they could if they wanted to. I mean, I just don't think when you talk about what Milwaukee wants, the Knicks, that we really have to move heaven and earth to obtain the draft capital and to satisfy the desires to get a player back. And I don't see a realistic pathway for them. I do think that if all thing in a perfect world, if they did have the wherewithal to make that deal and they felt that who was coming back, they would have enough to win, I think they would do it. I don't think it's a matter of anything about this roster or not this roster. I think independently they feel confident about this group, but it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I think it's more so just not being able to get in that conversation. And you hit on Minnesota, and you're 100% right. I'm keeping an eye on those picks in Portland that Milwaukee sent over there, the first round picks. And I'm just wondering, can Minnesota entice Portland to send those picks over to Milwaukee somehow, some way? Jaden McDaniels, does that get it done? And then you send, some contracts that are going to be expiring soon over to Milwaukee with the players. That's where I'm looking in terms of where this thing might hinge, those picks in Portland. Knicks, though, outside looking in, I think. And so, there's a lot of pieces on the board still. Obviously, John Morant, once you move Jaren Jackson Jr., that's the next domino to fall. You're talking about, the Knicks, from a Knick perspective, taking Giannis out of the equation, there's still minor moves that could be made. And I think it's important to say they did check in on Jaren Jackson Jr. With Memphis. And this was a few nights ago. And so I don't think it was Giannis or bust just based on them having that conversation. But I don't think it's, at this point, it seems like more so bench help and more so where's Yabusele going to end up. And that might be it. I mean, Jose Alvarado is still, to me, a target for them. I know that they checked in on Nick Richards, Yves Missy as well. So I think it's one of those. It's a backup point guard, backup big. I guess there's ways to get both with the salaries that you could offer, and then the second round picks you have. But I think more likely than not, it's like it is an Alvarado or a backup big.
I mean, we talked about it when you came on Knicks Film School. I think it was last week. How, where is the dividing line between the assets that they are willing to touch versus the ones that they are unwilling to dip into? And the question I probably have gotten asked the most over the last few days is, again, I brought it up to you, is that Washington pick, which, judging by how the Wizards have been approaching games lately, is probably not going to be conveying in the first round. But on the bright side, you're going to be able to, whoever owns that pick, get whether it's the first or the second pick of the second round, and that has real value. And is there, something out there that would be able to appease, the Knicks enough to be able to give that up? But then on the flip side, if you're a team giving up a real piece and you're taking on Yabusele's money for next year, even if there is a buyout situation potentially looming, is that pick enough for you to be able to give up a nice player on the market?
Right. Yeah. No, it's a great point. And the place that I'm watching too, and I don't think anything could get done there really, is Chicago, because Kobe White going to be a free agent. I think there's at least some uncertainty about whether he's back there or not. And I think if you're Chicago, you operate with that in mind. And then the other wing, Ayo Dosunmu, he's a very good young player, and he's on a contract that's I think it's 3 years, 21, going into the second season of the deal. So $7 million, that's palatable salary. I'm assuming Chicago would hold out for a lot, so it probably costs you a lot of draft capital. But just the situation over there, to me, is intriguing, and I'm assuming they're going to continue to have conversations on those guards. Whether the Knicks fit in or whether they want to fit in, I'm not as sure, but I think those guys will be available for the right price. If you could choose one of these role players that we're mentioning, or maybe even somebody we haven't talked about, who would you go after?
I so the combo platter of Alvarado and Misi would be pretty tempting, only because you are kind of killing multiple birds with the same stone. And just frankly, the Misi thing kind of confuses me, because he obviously made an all rookie team last year. Our buddy Fred Katz had a nice article in The Athletic about him last year, talking about how he kind of learns at this incredible rate. And, Pelicans people could not stop gushing about how much he just picked everything up, and he was learning how to box out, so much better over the course of the season. And then they go and they make the Queen acquisition in the summer, or they sign Looney, or I forget how they got Looney, but they have Looney. And now it seems like he's, on the block. What is that? Does that mean something behind the scenes? Is that just an indication of kind of the Pelicans not really knowing which direction they are going as an organization? Either way, and again, I don't want to imagine a world where Mitchell Robinson is not on the Knicks. But as you just alluded to, free agency is coming. There will be teams potentially that could have some resources, and to have Misi here as an insurance policy, at the very least, if Mitch gets hurt, over the course of the rest of this year, would be valuable. And then Alvarado seems like a natural fit, both for the city and for what the team needs. But I'd love to Sumu too.
I think that one of the things that has shooken loose recently, and you talked about it on Twitter, John, was Mike Conley. He obviously got moved out of Minnesota, maybe a buyout option. My understanding there, at this point at least, is that his path is probably more likely to end up back in Minnesota, maybe another trade and then getting waived, and then he goes there. That's kind of what other teams are thinking is going to end up here, is ultimately he'll be back up north. So maybe not even an option for the Knicks. But also, I don't know what his salary is off the top of my head, but there's a level of salary that the Knicks are not allowed to.
It's under.
It is under.
Yeah. The level is the full mid level. So if you're making under, I forget if it's 14.1 or 14.2,
I guess around there,
and then you're bought out. So I'm trying to think of so DeMar DeRozan, just again, I saw a report for, apologies, I don't want to misattribute it, but someone had floated the idea of the Kings buying out DeMar DeRozan. He would not be eligible to come to the Knicks because he makes above that number.
Producer Sam Candell always coming through. She says Mike Conley is at 10.77, so doable. Second apron concerns, but yeah, I think that the people think he's going to route to Minnesota. So if the Knicks have enough money left over to go ahead and bring somebody in after this trade deadline, I think that's a big part of it in terms of signing a free agent. But go ahead.
Can I ask you, Ian, because right now, them adding a 15th player, and this was a point of conversation back in training camp. I wonder how much that will impact what they do over the next, again, 25 and a half hours, in terms of cutting enough money to bring in a 15th guy as maybe this year's, PJ Tucker, if to the extent the team even needs that. Maybe they don't.
Yeah, I mean, all I know for sure was that the conversation between the Knicks and some player representatives was, hey, come into training camp with us because we may have the space to sign somebody the middle of the season, even if you don't make the team. So come just be with us now, and we're going to circle back. So at least that was a thought then. I don't know exactly if that is indeed the plan now, but just based on those conversations back in training camp, I wouldn't be surprised. They did do it with PJ Tucker, and I don't know. I don't know. Is there a player like that where he's just a locker room presence? Because let's say you trade for Alvarado and then you have a 9-man rotation, including Alvarado. The player that you're signing is not going to play, probably. And so, I wonder what role that they would be looking for in that buyout market too.